Incoming message.
All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking something that is literally sending shockwaves through the paranormal community right now. We're looking at a trending July 2026 investigation by Ghost Club Paranormal, specifically investigators Mandy and Jade. This dropped and racked up over 276 views right out of the gate, and you'll see why in a second. They caught something, well, impossible, at Colorado's most haunted prison. What they brought back isn't just your typical spooky campfire story. It is a piece of evidence that totally challenges our basic understanding of life, death, and, well, what actually gets left behind. So picture this. Jade and Mandy ask a simple question in the pitch black of this prison, and their recorder actually answers. But here's the kicker. It wasn't some random background noise. It wasn't a disconnected fragment. We're talking about a grammatically complete sentence. In the world of paranormal field reports, getting audio of an entity actively explaining itself, that's entirely unprecedented. When they slowed this audio down, it became super clear that this entity wasn't just echoing noise into the void, it was deliberately answering them.
Which brings us to our first major shift in understanding. Section 1. EVP is dead. I know, that's a massive claim, right? But the evidence we're looking at completely shatters the traditional ghost hunting playbook. For decades, the gold standard has been the EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. You know the drill. A burst of static, a random single word, maybe a partial phrase if you're lucky. It's scratchy, and honestly, it relies a lot on interpretation. You're always left wondering, wait, did it say help or did a floorboard just squeak? But this new Colorado audio, completely different animal. We're talking complete sentences, clear grammar, undeniable intent. It isn't just noise you have to squint your ears to hear. It's a full-blown conversation, showing an entity that has literally learned how to use our equipment to talk back.
Let's look at where this actually happened in Section 2, the Colorado Prison Crucible. Because to really grasp this evidence, you have to understand the environment that cooked it up. This is not your standard creepy old house. The history here is incredibly grim, intense, and absolutely crucial to why this capture even happened. We're talking about a deeply notorious Colorado prison. The documented history is just heavy. Executions, violent riots, horrific abuses in solitary confinement, and deaths spanning well over a century. Plus, the original buildings haven't been torn down. They've been meticulously preserved. Now, according to multiple paranormal frameworks, when you have a place where hundreds of people experienced extreme, unrelenting psychological stress, it creates the perfect energetic conditions for a haunting. The stone walls practically act like a sponge for that trauma. It's a crucible. But even knowing all that, Jade and Mandy were definitely not prepared for what they found. All right, let's see how they actually proved this in Section 3, 3 questions, 3 devices.
Because, let's be real, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right? And what separates Ghost Club Paranormal from the rest of the pack is their rigorous, rock-solid scientific methodology. They don't just wander in with a single camera and cross their fingers. They set out to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this wasn't a glitch or radio bleed or some elaborate hoax. Their setup was incredibly strict. Step 1. Deploy multiple independent recording devices simultaneously, all running on completely different internal systems. Step 2. Conduct a vocal interrogation in the dark. And step 3, and this is the absolute game changer, require the exact same audio on at least 2 distinct channels to verify it as evidence. If a sound only pops up on one recorder, toss it. It could just be an internal mic error. True evidence has to be repeatable and verifiable across independent systems.
Which makes this number right here absolutely mind-blowing. 3. The audio they captured didn't just show up on one device. It didn't just show up on 2. It registered on 3 simultaneous recording devices at the exact same timestamp with identical content. Think about that for a second. 3 separate microchips, 3 separate microphones in the exact same millisecond, picking up the exact same voice. You can completely rule out an equipment malfunction. That's not a glitch, folks. That is a confirmed, verified signal. So let's walk through this rapid back and forth interrogation sequence, exactly how it went down in that pitch black prison block. The investigators started with standard protocol. They asked the ultimate baseline question, is there anyone here with us? It's simple, it's yes or no, and it's used in almost every investigation ever. And boom, across all 3 devices, they get an immediate response. It was an 11 kilohertz vocalization, making up about 2 very clear words. Now, why are we nerding out over 11 kilohertz? Because that frequency is safely above typical environmental noise, like footsteps or settling pipes, but it sits perfectly below stray radio interference.
It's sitting right there in this acoustic sweet spot, proving it was generated right there in the room with them. So having established contact, Jade and Mandy escalate things. They throw out their second question, and it's a heavy one. Why are you still here? I mean, just imagine the tension in that room. You're standing in a century-old prison surrounded by a history of suffering, staring into the pitch black, and asking an invisible entity why it hasn't moved on.
And this right here is where this investigation goes from simply fascinating to historically impossible. The recorders didn't give them static. They captured a multi-syllable response. It had rising intonation, and it used the grammatical structure of a full explanatory sentence. Let that sink in. Rising intonation. The voice actually inflected naturally, the exact way human beings do when we're trying to explain a complex thought. It fully demonstrated that it understood the question. Honestly, reeling from that, they hit the entity with the third and final question of the sequence to really nail down this conversational vibe. They asked, "How many of you are here?" They were basically testing to see if this thing had spatial awareness of its surroundings, or maybe even awareness of other spirits in the cell block. And the entity didn't give them some scratchy, ambiguous whisper that you could brush off as the wind. The response, again, validated across all three devices, was a single, clearly enunciated digit, a crystal-clear, direct numerical statement. This means it didn't just understand language, it understood math, it understood quantity, and it totally understood its own context inside that space. This data forces us to totally rethink things in our final section, Section 4, a shift in consciousness. The paradigm-shifting implications of this Colorado prison data, you really can't overstate them. If we accept the data, and honestly, 3 independent recordings strongly suggest we absolutely should, we have to change our whole definition of what a haunting even is. To get why this is such a big deal, we have to look at the old model. For years, the go-to theory for these super traumatic locations was the residual haunting. Basically a loop or echo of past events replaying continuously without any active awareness or intelligence. Think of it like a glitchy old VHS tape just playing the same tragic moment on a loop forever. Nobody's actually home, it's just energetic residue. But Ghost Club Paranormal's new evidence completely tosses that model out the window for this location. We are moving way beyond the traditional ghost, that unaware echo doomed to pace the same hallway forever. Instead, this data points directly to a surviving consciousness. This entity processes questions, it formulates highly relevant, grammatically correct responses, and most importantly, it actually wants to be understood. It has awareness, it knows it's in a prison, it knows how many others are there, and honestly, it seems like it's just been waiting decades for someone to walk in with the right equipment and finally ask the right questions. Which leads us to this incredibly powerful summary of what those 3 simultaneous recorders suggest we are dealing with here. That's not a ghost in the traditional sense, that's a consciousness that survived physical death. I mean, wow. It forces us to confront the very real possibility that the personality, the intellect, and the communication skills of whoever this was, they remained completely intact long after their physical body died in that facility. Ghost Club Paranormal has basically shown us that those old, fragmented EVPs are a thing of the past. Responsive, structured communication is the new reality. Whatever is trapped inside that prison has been there for a very, very long time. And clearly, it knows exactly how to work a microphone. The entity has things it wants to say. The only real question left for us to answer is, are we ready to listen? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your minds open, and I will catch you next time as we keep exploring the fascinating edges of what we think we know.
Come to me!